All right, so I pulled the cover off the engine, and as you can see, you have 4 spark plugs. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the driver's side, and then you have 4 more, which are the 4 more difficult ones just to reach, just to get your wrench into. You're gonna have to take off some of this air unit just to get access to them. But straightforward, this should be a pretty easy job. But just so you know, this is what it looks like. This is a 2014 Toyota Tundra 5.7. All right, so you got to get these boot connector cables off. Videos make it look like they just pop right off, but they kind of didn't. So what I ended up doing, it's a little kind of block you just got to get around right here, a little nubbin. I ended up using a short screwdriver to hold the button push back, and then used a long screwdriver to kind of get underneath the lip when you pushed it back, and then just kind of pried it open just a little bit, and then I was actually able to wiggle the boot cover off here, or the electrical connector to the boot cover. So that's what I had to do for all 4 of them on the driver's side, but that was a little harder said than done, you know. So I just figured I'd let y'all know what I did to get them off. Then of course, once you get those electrodes off, the wiring off, go ahead and loosen up with your 10mm bolt, pop it out. Then your boot cover can actually just come on out. Just ease it on out. You might have to wiggle it free. And there it is. 1. And there you have it. All 4 boot covers removed. The last one you kind of had to finagle just a little bit between some of those metal lines in there, but just kind of turn them sideways and just kind of ease them on out. And there they are. I did have to use a bucket to stand on because I'm not tall enough to make it all the way in there. My arms aren't long enough, but keep on rolling. And then for sure, make sure you have the right tool for pulling the spark plugs as well as putting them back in. But it's got to be the adjustable head. It's got to be, I think, pretty sure this is 5/8, but also that it's a magnetic head, because you will suffer big time if you don't have the magnetic head with the extender with the adjustable head. So just giving you heads up, just pulled the first one. Definitely need to replace them. So just got to have the right tools. See ya. And then when actually pulling out the last spark plug on the driver's side, go ahead and actually, because it's tight, go ahead, stick your extension kind of spark plug remover tool in first and then hook up your wrench. It's really the only way to kind of get in there tight without having to pull a whole bunch of extra crap off. It'll save you a ton too. So just stick that in there first and then go ahead and attach it rather than trying to do it all in one shot. And then once you actually stick your wrench on there, get it broken, because it is such a tight space and you're actually backing that spark plug out, just go ahead and use your hand and just turn it. This is on that furthest spark plug in the back on the driver's side, and then just pop it out that way. Don't keep, pop that wrench off or the socket off, and then just use your hand to pull it out. See you. All right, so you're gonna get your new spark plug, put it back in your magnetic socket, and let's go ahead and replace the 4 on the driver's side. And for me, when reinstalling them, the best thing to do is just go ahead and put your spark plug in your socket and then just hand tighten them until they you can't tighten them anymore, and then get your wrench and just kind of tighten them. It's hard to get the torque wrench in here, so you just kind of have to give them that little quarter turn and then they should be tightened, but do not over tighten these. And once all spark plugs are in, go ahead and shoot some grease right on in. Obviously spark plug boot grease into the tips of your boots, and then we'll go ahead and reinsert these back on top of the spark plugs, lock them down with the 10mm bolt, attach the electrode there, and then one side will be done. And then finally, to wrap up, go ahead and reconnect the cables. They go on a lot easier than they did coming off. So it's the same thing, guys, on the passenger side with these clips. It's probably the hardest thing of this whole spark plug, change out, is actually being able to get this clip. Again, like I said, I use one screwdriver to push in on the little button up top, and then I use another one to just kind of catch the corner. And then once it's under there, it stays under there, and then I just use my hand and pop it up. Just do that for all four. The one in the back is actually really tight to get to because of this little thing here. But you can actually get to them all. That was actually probably the easiest one of them all. This one in the front was actually probably the most difficult, just because there isn't a ton of room for it. But that's the hardest part right there. So getting these little electrode knobs off, we'll go ahead and use our 10mm socket to grab the boots, take them out, grease them up, pop out the old spark plug, park in the new, and then call it good, man. Attach the electrodes back on there again, and it's a 2-hour project. Probably do it a little bit faster if you know what you're doing and you have the tools and you've done it once or twice before. But that's changing the spark plugs out and doing a little tune-up on the 5.7 Tundra 2014. And one last thing, obviously I kind of pulled my air filter cover up and didn't really detach much, but you want on this fourth boot, to get that boot out of there, you will have to just kind of pull the pin on this and just gently move this up just a hair, and then you'll be able to slide that boot right out. But that's all you'll really have to do, and the rest just kind of will pop out, no problem. But this fourth one in the back on the passenger side, you just have to move this just a hair, and you'll be able to slip out the boot. And just again, with getting the spark plugs out, go ahead, break them, with your spark plug, wrench and socket, and then go ahead and pull that off, just socket part off, and just hand loosen them up. And then it's actually quite a bit of unscrewing, more than you probably would think. But just go ahead, use your hand, it'll go a lot faster rather than using the ratchet on your wrench. And then when they're ready, you'll feel it. It's a lot easier. And go ahead and pop out the spark plug. Yep, time for new ones. And then one last thing I've kind of, made a little boo-boo on is when you're going ahead and attaching your 10mm socket back on to your boots, I don't have my electrodes attached just yet, but by default, they just kind of sit back there, and you're kind of more worried about getting your socket bolt in there, and you actually pinch that little electrode thing to your boot, like behind it, and then you start screwing it down, and then you didn't even know it, and the next thing you know, you're having to unscrew your boot to get this back out so then you can reattach it. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. That's something I've done actually a couple times now, just on accident, but just to save you some time and some frustration, just go ahead and make sure that's out of the way before you start locking down your bolt. All right, everything's reattached when it comes to spark plugs and boots and all that. You want to go ahead and re-clip in your little thing that you pulled off in the back. You want to go ahead and put your filter back in, put your air intake system back on, and then there's one more clip, little hose right here that I took off as well off my intake that I want to clamp back on. And that's the full spark plug change. In my humble opinion, not being any sort of mechanic of any standing, the passenger side is a lot easier. It might actually seem a little bit more difficult and stuff in the way, but it's actually a lot easier than the driver's side. I would suggest starting on the driver's side, getting your frustration out, and then when you get to the passenger side, it's a lot easier, and you can just breeze right through it, and you'll feel better about the whole thing. See ya.